Hello and welcome. My name is Alan and we are back with more 2025 to 2026 state governments and officials. This was meant to be Saturday's video. In this video, we are looking at the state of West Virginia. So yeah, nicknamed the Mountain State because more or less the whole state is mountainous, covered almost completely by the Appalachian Mountains. The Appalachians themselves go through a number of states, but usually it's just part of each state. So yeah, but West Virginia covers almost the entire entirety of the state. So anyway, capital of West Virginia is Charleston. Largest city is also Charleston, though its largest metro and urban area is Charleston Huntington. Because I think Huntington, isn't Huntington where the University of West Virginia is? Anyway, yeah. But let's go ahead and dig in here. Landlocked state in the southern and mid-Atlantic regions of the U.S., bordered by Pennsylvania and Maryland to the northeast, Virginia to the southeast, Kentucky to the southwest, Ohio to the northwest, and it is the 10th smallest state by area and 12th least populous. So not really densely populated. It only has a population of 1,769,979 residents. But yeah. Anyway, let's look at the Constitution of the state here. The Constitution that is in effect is its second ever Constitution. So it's organized under that one, 1872, which West Virginia became a state during the Civil War, 61 to 65. So, yeah. But yeah, the current one's 1872. The original, when it first became a state in 1861. Or its original state, Virginia, seceded, it says, we want to be part of the Union. So, now, let's look at the government of West Virginia. Three-tiered like the national government, legislative, judicial, executive branch. And with that, let's look at the legislative branch itself. Like all states except Nebraska, which is the one standout, West Virginia has a bicameral legislature, and the lower house, like Virginia, is called the House of Delegates, and the upper house, the Senate. The West Virginia legislature is part-time, like we've seen before. Um, it proposes a limit of 60 calendar days for a regular session, which commences on the second Wednesday of January of each year, following the election of a new governor. The session starts in January in the governor's address, but then adjourns until February. The session may be extended by concurrent resolution adopted by 2/3 of each house. The governor may also call legislatures for special sessions when the governor deems it one or more issues of state government to need timely action. The final day of regular session usually includes last-minute legislation in order to meet a constitutionally imposed deadline of midnight. So they frequent, like we said, part-time, so they usually hold another job in their community or residence. Which there are some states that have full-time legislators. Pennsylvania and Ohio, they list as examples. House of Delegate has 100 members that serve 2-year terms and elected in every even year election. The Senate has 34 members, 17 districts, elected 4-year terms, and one senator from each district is elected in the presidential year, and the other one is in the off year. So 2 senators per district, whereas 34 members, 17 districts. So that's a look at just a little glance at the legislative branch. If I can find my mouse, I couldn't find it for a moment. Let's look a little more in depth at the legislature. Bicameral Senate, House of Delegates. It was started when West Virginia became a state. June 20th, 1863. You had the lieutenant governor apparently does not take part in the proceedings like we see in some states. Some states are like this. Some states, they have the lieutenant governor in there. Your Senate president is Randy Smith, and the House Speaker, Roger Hanshaw. You could see how far to the right just the Senate is. 34 members. 31 members are Republican. Two are Democrat. And one is a vacant seat. So yeah. The House of Delegates, 100 seats, 91 Republican, 9 Democrat. So yeah, it leans very far to the right. We talked about elections, capital Charleston. Bills, even revenue bills and resolutions, may originate in either house. Bills must undergo 3 readings in each house before being sent to the governor. So it's like triple checking for each chamber, each house of the legislature. Bills cannot contain multiple subjects and do not take effect until 90 days following adjournment. Bills are assigned to committees that make recommendations about a bill in the form of a committee report. But yeah. They can probably overturn vetoes as well, I'm feeling. I don't see any mention of it, but anyway. Let's go back to the state government. Executive branch. The chief executive of West Virginia is the governor, who serves a 4-year term and is elected at the same time and presidential elections are held. Governor sworn in on the January following the November election. Governor may only serve 2 consecutive terms. A term-limited government may subsequently run for additional terms after but an interceding election must occur. Patrick Morrisey became governor January 13, 2025. So Morrisey is the current governor for West Virginia. In addition to governor, there are 5 other seats where you're elected directly to the executive offices: Secretary of State, Attorney General, Agriculture Commissioner, Auditor, and Treasurer. Regular elections are held concurrently with the election for governor every 4 years, but unlike the governor, these offices have no term limits. So yeah, with that, let's see if we can dig in a bit here. There you go. Governor Patrick Morrisey, the current governor. The Attorney General, J.B. McCluskey. The Secretary of State, Chris Warner. The Virginia Department of Agriculture, Kent Leonhardt. The Auditor, Mark Hunt. And Treasurer, Larry Pack. I think that's, Judiciary. So now let's go over here, and we also got the cabinet for the governor. I had to pull this up at more of a news site than anything else because it's hard finding. But your Chief of Staff, Tom McCaffrey, Senior Advisor, Douglas P. Buffington II, the Deputy Chief of Staff and Chair of Energy and Infrastructure and Competitiveness Council, A. Todd Johnston, General Counsel Sean M. Whelan, Director of Policy Curtis R. A. Capehart, Director of Operations Marissa Finley, Director of Intergovernmental and Political Affairs John L. Finley, Director of Budget Mike McCown, Press Secretary Crescent Gallagher, Deputy General Counsel Katie Franklin, and Secretary of Revenue Senator Eric Nelson, Secretary of Administration the Honorable Eric Householder, as Secretary of Human Services Alex Mayer, Secretary of the Department of Environmental Protection Harold Ward, and Commissioner of the Bureau of Senior Services Diana Graves. So yeah, a list of the cabinet and advisors under the governor. With that said, let's look at the list of governors and governor. They didn't just have one that was straight governor, it redirected to list of governors of West Virginia. As we've discussed, the current is Patrick Morrisey. Serves 4-year terms, can only serve 2 in a row before they have to be off at least a term. So yeah. To be governor, you must be a citizen of the U.S., resident of West Virginia for at least 5 years before the election, be a duly qualified voter, elector of West Virginia, and be at least 30 years of age. The first ever governor was Arthur I. Borman. Lawyer, politician, judge, and one of the founders of the state of West Virginia. He was raised in Tyler County in West Virginia, serving as the first governor, and represented Wood County in the Virginia House of Delegates when it was still part of Virginia. Daniel D.T. Farnsworth, a politician in West Virginia, served as in the West Virginia Senate and was second governor for a brief time. Because, yeah, you can see there, late February to early March. So, because, yeah, the first governor resigned and Farnsworth took over temporarily just until the next one was elected. That brings in number 3, William E. Stevenson. Cabinet maker, farmer, politician from Parkersburg, West Virginia, and third governor. Then we get our first Democratic governor. And then finally a People's Independent Party where he switched to John J. Jacob, politician from Green Spring, West Virginia, served 2 terms as the 4th governor, and was also elected U.S. House of Delegates from Hampshire County. He's followed up by Henry M. Matthews. Military officer, lawyer, politician from West Virginia, 7th Attorney General, and 5th Governor, and first former Confederate elected governor. Yeah, because remember, the first 3 were Republican. At that point, they were the party of Lincoln. They were the pro-union group. And now we've got Democrats. After, I think it was, we just looked at Matthews. Yeah. After Matthews, we had Jacob B. Jackson. 6th governor, cousin of Stonewall Jackson is what he proclaims. second cousin once removed, according to research. Then we get Emmanuel Willis Wilson, 7th governor. Aradus B. Fleming, 8th governor. Ran for a governmental nominee in 1888. Or just Democratic nominee. And the legislature disputed it. And in 1890, they agreed Fleming had won. Then we have William McCorkle, teacher, lawyer, prosecutor, 9th governor, and a state legislature, and financier for West Virginia. Lived in Charleston. Okay. Then we get the first Republican we've had since the first 3. George W. Atkinson, and he brings in the 1900s. Cavalryman, lawyer, politician, judge, scholar, 10th governor. Served in the West Virginia House of Delegates, as well as in the United States House of Representatives for West Virginia. So, then we have Albert B. White, 11th governor. He's also a Republican, so now we're going on a streak of Republicans again. William M. Dawson follows, 12th governor, and also served as Secretary of State for West Virginia. William E. Glasscock, Henry D. Hatfield. Then we get back to the Democrats. John J. Cornwell, Republican again. Ephraim F. Morgan, Howard Mason Gore, William G. Conley. And Democrats, Herman G. Kump, Homer A. Holt. So yeah, it's after the Great Depression when FDR is in charge. You look, they're all voting Democrat. Matthew M. Neely, Clarence W. Meadows, Okie Pattison, William C. Marland. We get a Republican again with Cecil H. Underwood. And back to Democrat, Wally Barron, Hewlett C. Smith. And we get back to Republican. We were seeing the switch at this point of how the two parties have kind of switched ideologies. Arch A. Moore Jr., and then Democrat J. Rockefeller, and then Republican Arch A. Moore Jr. returns again as a Republican. Then Democrat Gaston Caperton, Republican Cecil H. Underwood, Democrat Bob Wise, Joe Manchin, Earl Ray Tomblin. Then we get Jim Justice, who starts he was first elected as a Democrat, but switches to Republican while in office. And then we get the current governor, Patrick Morrisey. But yeah, it's a look at the history of governors for West Virginia. So it wasn't that long ago they did have Democrat governors. So even though the legislature leans so far right, they do seem to have a bit of a mixed streak in the way the populace votes. Judicial branch. The state trial courts of general jurisdiction are the West Virginia Circuit Courts, with 31, which are made up of more counties, one or more counties, with a total of 70 circuit judges. Domestic cases are handled by family courts, which there are 25 family court circuits and a total of 45 judges. Local judges are elected in nonpartisan elections to serve 8-year terms on a nonpartisan basis. Small claims and misdemeanor case are heard by magistrates elected for 4 years, with between 2 and 10 in each county based on population. Magistrates, not lawyers. That's the small claims, like we said, mentioned already, though. So then, of course, you have the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals, the highest court, and the Intermediate Court of Appeals of West Virginia, which hears civil and administrative appeals. Criminal appeals go directly to the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals. So yeah, with that, let's see the list broken down here for you. Your Supreme Court of Appeals of West Virginia, the state's top court. It's followed by Intermediate Court of Appeals of West Virginia, and that's followed by the West Virginia Circuit Courts, which under it has West Virginia Family Courts, West Virginia Magistrate Courts, and West Virginia Municipal Courts. West Virginia Family Courts. Divorce, annulment, separate maintenance, paternity, grandparent visitation, issues involving allocation of parental responsibility and family support proceedings, except those incidental to child abuse and neglect proceedings. It can also hold final hearings on domestic violence, civil proceedings, which, as it deals with family situation. Let's see. Currently 47 family court judges serving 27 family court circuits. So that's family courts. And also along the same level, magistrate courts. Non-lawyers, small claims, petty crime. Established to replace the Justice of the Peace system in 1976. There are at least 2 magistrates in every county and 10 in the largest county, Kanawha County. Magistrates have jurisdictions over civil cases which the financial amount in dispute is less than $10,000. They hear misdemeanor cases and conduct preliminary examinations. In felony cases and in criminal cases, they issue and record affidavits, complaints, arrest warrants, and search warrants, as well as set bail and make decisions concerning proposed plea agreements and collections of court costs, cash bonds, and fines. They issue emergency protective orders in cases involving domestic violence. So yeah. They were previously elected to partisan elections for 4-year terms. In 2015, the legislature provided that future elections will be held on a nonpartisan basis and will be by numbered divisions so that a separate vote for one election will be held for each magistrate. And unlike circuit courts and the Supreme Court of Appeals, where judges must be West Virginia licensed attorneys for at least 5 years before running, magistrates only require a high school diploma and are not required to be licensed attorneys. Although there is nothing preventing a lawyer from running for the office, and they have occasionally been elected, most magistrates are in West Virginia are, in fact, not attorneys. Well, if I can get my mouse to work with me here. That's followed by the circuit courts, who are the Court of General Jurisdiction and trial courts. Only trial courts in West Virginia that are courts of record. It's the 55 counties of West Virginia are divided into 31 circuits, with comprising anywhere from 1 to 4 counties. Different circuits have a different number of judges, with 11 having only one. Circuit judges were formally elected in partisan elections to serve 8-year terms, but in 2015, as with the magistrate courts, the legislature changed the law to provide that future elections will be on a nonpartisan basis, and judges must have engaged in the practice of law for at least 5 years. When there is a vacancy, the governor of West Virginia appoints a judge who must run in the next election to retain his or her seat. They have circuit court judges have original jurisdiction over all civil cases in an amount of controversy in excess of $300, all civil cases of equity, writs of habeas corpus, mandamus, quo warranto, prohibition, and certiorari, all felonies and misdemeanors, and have original appellate jurisdiction for appeals from magistrate and municipal court. Until June 30th, 2022, so they no longer have this. We won't even bother with it then. Because those appeals now go directly to the Intermediate Court of Appeals. Your circuit courts listed and what counties they cover. But yeah. That brings us to the Intermediate Court of Appeals of West Virginia, the second level of appeals court. jurisdiction over the following appeals, which are subject to further appeal that would go directly to the Supreme Court of Appeals. Final judgments or orders of a circuit court in civil cases after June 30th, 2022 that were entered prior to that. Final judges' orders of a family court entered after June 30th, 2022. Yeah, because this is the ones we were talking about that the circuit courts no longer have appeals power over. They go to the Intermediate Court of Appeals, except for final judgments or final orders issued by the family court or any domestic violence petition, which appeals shall first be made in the circuit court. They have appeals power over final judgments or orders of a circuit court concerning guardianship or conservatorship matters. Final judgments, orders, or decisions of an agency or an administrative law judge entered after June 30th, 2022. Final orders or decisions of healthcare authority in a certificate of need review. Final orders of decisions issued by the Insurance Commissioner's Office of Judges and prior to its termination. Final orders or decisions of Workers' Compensation Board or review. So yeah, it has no original and no criminal jurisdiction. Fundamental public importance or cases in which time is of the essence. Either party may petition that the court be bypassed. The court is required to issue a written opinion on every case. These opinions are binding precedent unless overruled on further appeal by the Supreme Court of Appeals or the United States Supreme Court. The court consists of 3 judges, each elected on a nonpartisan basis for 10-year terms. In the event that a judge is recused, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Appeals shall appoint a current circuit judge to temporarily fill that spot. Because, there may be something that conflicts with their personal interest. So it's like, well, you got to have somebody in that place. But the current judges for the Intermediate Court of Appeals, Ryan White, Daniel W. Greer, and Charles Lawrenson. So yeah, that's a look at the Intermediate, and that brings us to the Supreme Court of Appeals for West Virginia. Five members, 1 Chief Justice, 4 associates, each judge elected to 12-year terms. Yeah, elected to 12-year terms in staggered statewide nonpartisan elections. So, in a years that 2 seats are up for election, a separate election is held for each seat. court holds 2 regular sessions, with the first commencing on the second Tuesday in January and the second session commencing in the first Wednesday in September. And the court may also sit in special session as needed. And your justices of the Supreme Court of Appeals for West Virginia, Chief Justice C. Haley Nunn, with Associate Justices William R. Wooten, Charles S. Trump, Tom Ewing, and Gerald Titus III. So yeah. But that's a look at the government and officials for the state of West Virginia. And with that, that ends this actual episode. So yeah, that leaves us only 2 other states to go, I believe. So yeah. But as always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing. Ask them to cite their sources. But it can't just be junk sources. I'll be putting my links and sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.